What's up, everybody? Hey, before you click off, hear me out. I've given in. It's all about the clicks, the likes, the personality, what kind of influencer you're presenting yourself to be, like how popular you are. But what all does that really mean? This is the only video, in my opinion, in what's helped me break free that you will need to free yourself, your life, to possibly have a chance to succeed, especially in the world that we're living in today. It's going to expose and hopefully open the eyes of anyone who sees it. And honestly, regardless of if this message gets spread or if it lies stagnant in the YouTube algorithm, I mean, honestly, I didn't want to use a script or the chat GTP approach. I wanted to be as authentic as possible because this needs to be heard. And I'm not going to talk a lot right now. We're just going to get right into the videos that you need to see in order to produce a happier life for yourself. So basically, this is the only video you're going to need with the required steps to free yourself, your body, and your mind. I mean, honestly, it's what's helped. And you need to break that illusion that has been fed to you by the media, by the left and the right. And go back to the 80s and 90s footage of these high-level leaders and people that are now millionaires and billionaires, which is fine if they work for it. You can't hate on that. We put ourselves in this position. We are the product of our own environment. I mean, yes, environment matters, but ultimately we make the decisions to lead us here. So basically, we got to break that veil. Like, stop going all in for a particular party, especially the left has this issue. The right has in the videos I'll show you, if you have the ability to pay attention to somebody that doesn't have many views, or you may not even trust, because honestly, who am I? Just another talking head on this dead internet, and people may not even take this serious. I don't know, but at least it was worth a try. And I don't know what else to I don't even know how else to describe it except for play the first video, give you a brief introduction of the other two videos I suggest you watch, put all that knowledge together, and then this piece of information I'm going to give you. The quickest way to get from any point is always going to be a straight line. You're never going to have to go around a bend and around another bend to get to your destination. It's always going to be quicker if you take the direct approach. And that goes with many facets of life. But we're going to get into the videos here. Hopefully you can take this message, and if you have to skip through the video, I don't care, but it would help if you do that down there. Get the message out. People need to see these videos. These are the most important videos, in my opinion, that I have found. But what do I know? Do the message for yourself, and just you decide. We
Seconds out.
Muster up this last round.
Ready. Let's fight.
Alright, guys, I'm back. Alright, so let's go ahead and let my computer CPU catch up, because I'm not rich like some people, and I have to just grind and make do with what I got. But first video we're going to look at is OK Rick's video. This goes back to the 90s, and it shows you what your leadership on the left actually believed in. Now pay attention, please. Yeah.
Just can't make this up. You just can't make
Sorry
this
about
up.
my internet.
Look. You know what's going on, family. You probably have already seen it. It has broke the internet. It's everywhere. But we were warned about these hypocrites, these frauds, these fakes, these criminals. Trump warned us long time ago. We know about these politicians, man. And the saying Trump was right about everything, and the other saying, and and then the leaked footage, old footage comes back out and breaks the internet and takes everybody for a surprise. You just can't make this up. Still don't know how this woman and many others are still just walking the streets freely. There should be full-blown investigation, handcuffs, people with their hands behind their back, but they still out there roaming, enjoying their life, inside trading and in there with her bracelets and pearls off. Unbelievable. She was responsible for this, and that, caught in the biggest scandals and scams there
Rick.
is.
He's
they
passionate.
Walk her and her husband out. I'm just
Check
saying.
out Rick's channel, man. Shout out Rick.
Here she is, in the flesh, in the blood. I'm gonna say endorses the Trump tariffs. Yeah, just like how they spoke back in the 90s. With what Doge is doing, But hey, Trump does it. Elon Musk, what they have done, they're the bad guys. They are the bad guys because it's Trump and Elon Musk. But in 1996, Nancy Pelosi encouraged all of Congress to back reciprocal tariffs. Yeah, 2008. Look at this. Bernie Sanders wants tariffs. Says jobs are going overseas. 2018. Mr. Barack Obama. Oh, Barry. We read your real birth certificate, sir. We saw your real birth certificate, sir. In 2018, Obama calls for tariffs. Yeah. 1988, Trump says foreign countries must pay tariffs. But out of all this, only one hasn't sold out. Only one person out of all these Democrats that was for this and that and this and that, only one of them hasn't sold out. We're going to play this full clip that is breaking the internet right now.
Now, this is important, guys.
But this one says Nancy can back tariffs, but Trump can't. Barack Obama can back tariffs, but Trump can't. Joe Biden can back tariffs, but Trump can't. Bernie Sanders can back tariffs, but Trump can't. Am I understanding this correctly?
It's all a distraction while we get broker. But it's up to us to make the money.
It's broke the internet.
It's up to us to do our own jobs.
Of Nancy Pelosi in 1996.
Until they're ready to get over this nonsense and pull these people out of office, and
back in the 90s,
we need to worry about our families.
Because
this is critical.
The sun was shining, the sky was blue. You could go to the car wash.
I don't know why I'm looking at the other camera.
Go out on a date.
Come on, Rick, play it.
Put some gas in your car at the end.
Come on, Rick.
And still have money in your pocket.
Play it, Rick.
Good times. I know the good times, man. I wasn't even born when this lady was up here talking. Yeah, I was. Oh man.
How far does China have to go? How much more repression? How big a trade deficit and loss of jobs for the American worker? And how much more dangerous proliferation has to exist before members of this House of Representatives will say, I will not endorse the status quo? As I mentioned, it's about jobs, proliferation, and human rights. And there are those who say we shouldn't link human rights and trade and proliferation and trade. I disagree. But if we just want to take up this issue on the basis of economics alone, indeed, China should not receive most favored nation status for several reasons that I'd like to go into now. I'd like to call the attention of our colleagues to this chart on the status quo that the business community is asking each and every one of us to endorse today. Right now, we have a $34 billion trade deficit with China, the 1995 figure. It will be over $40 billion for 1996. Since the Tiananmen Square massacre, this figure has increased 1,000%.
Rules for thee, not me.
Then to about $34 billion now. In terms of tariffs, I think it's interesting to note that the average U.S. MFN tariff on Chinese goods coming into the United States is 2%, whereas the average Chinese MFN tariff on U.S. goods going into China is 35%. Is that reciprocal? On exports, China only allows certain industries into China, of U.S. Industries into China, and therefore only 2% of U.S. exports are allowed into China. On the other hand, the U.S. allows China to flood our markets with a third of their exports, and that'll probably go over 40%. And
I
it's
apologize for my
because
internet.
we have not placed any restrictions.
Some people don't.
In terms of jobs, this is the biggest and cruelest hoax of all. Not only do we not have market access, not only do they have prohibitive tariffs, not only are our exports not let in very specifically, but China benefits with at least 10 million jobs from U.S.-China trade. The president, in his statement, requesting this special waiver, said that
this make me mad.
China trade supports 170,000 jobs in the United States, 170,000 jobs, whereas our imports from China support 10 million jobs at least. Fact is that U.S.-China trade is a job loser. And one of the reasons that it is because first let me just make another point, and that is that our colleagues on the other side of this issue will say the trade with China, exports to China have increased 3 times in the last 10 years. They have. But they fail to mention that imports from China have increased 11 times, thereby leading to this huge trade deficit. The other issue, in addition, if intellectual property is a $2 billion, $3 billion loss, technology transfer is in the hundreds of billions of dollars. If you want to sell to China, your products into China, the Chinese insist that you open a factory there. They misappropriate your technology, open factories of their own, and then say to you, now we want to see your plan for export. That's as simply as I can say it briefly. But the fact is, this isn't about products made in America. The Chinese want American products that are made in China. And the most serious of these transfers of technology are in the airline industry, where Boeing tail sections,
I know this is boring,
Boeing
but
737s were mostly made in Wichita, Kansas.
They said what they needed to say to get in power.
Province, where workers make $50 a month. And the transfer of the technology and the transfer of the jobs has taken place. General Motors, Ford, they're all fighting to get in to build factories there so they can make parts there. They want MFN so they can get those parts back into the United States. So we are exporting not low-tech jobs and textile jobs. We're exporting our technology. Now, if you take a country the size of China with the very cheap, and in some instances, slave labor, the lack of market access, the rip-off of our intellectual property, the transfer of technology, a country that is not willing to play by the rules in any respect in this trade relationship, you have a serious threat not only to our relationship, but to the industrialized world. And if there's one message that I want our colleagues to understand today and our constituents, is that on this day, your member of Congress could have drawn the line to say to the President of the United States, do something about this U.S.-China trade relationship that is a job loser for the United States. And this brings us to the point that others have said, well, we can't isolate China. Do you think for 1 minute that with 10 million jobs at least, and $35 billion and be over $40 billion this year in a trade surplus, all those billions of dollars in surplus, that the Chinese are going to walk away? Where are they going to take 35 to 40% of their exports? Who's going to buy them? This is what sustains the regime. The funding and the jobs. They can't have those people out of work. They have to be at work exporting to the United States.
Wow. Whew. I am flabbergasted.
Now we'll check out what Bernie had to say.
And now here's Bernie.
Further, what they have said is that we need to not worry about manufacturing in America, because what we should establish is a policy of unfettered free trade. We don't need tariffs. What we need is to allow corporate America the freedom to throw American workers out on the street, people who are making 15, 20, 25 bucks an hour, health care, pensions, throw them out on the street, because somehow, Madam President, we are going to create wealth in America and good paying jobs in America as we shut down plants, we move to China, corporations there pay workers 20, 30 cents an hour, and we bring the product back into this country. And anyone who goes shopping in a mall knows how difficult it is today to find the product made in America. But that is the philosophy. And I have to say, in that regard, the champion, and he is honest on this one, Senator McCain has been...
All right, I can't listen to him that much. He's changed. Oligarchy. It is an oligarchy. Dude, the party was elected.
When it comes to the international system,
The party was a fucking elected.
How is Michael? How's
Mushroom
the
tip?
Did she pull the mushroom tip out on you, sir? Rest in peace to the chef. Rest in peace to Miss Rivers. They knew too much. They knew too much.
when it comes to the international system of commerce and trade, it's legitimate for poorer countries to continue to seek access to wealthier markets. And by the way, wealthier markets, that's not the big problem that you're having. A small African country is sending you tea and flowers. That's not your biggest economic challenge. It's also proper for advanced economies like the United States to insist on reciprocity from nations like China that are no longer solely poor countries, to make sure that they're providing access to their markets.
Reciprocal tariffs.
That they stop taking intellectual property and hacking our servers.
All right. I see why so many liked him, man. His tone. He could speak, could he? Oh, Barry could speak, huh? He get up there and speak. He could be wrong.
Here's Donald Trump. What, 20, 30 years ago? So let's see if Donald Trump has changed from the 90s.
Right now and try to sell something. Forget about it, Oprah. Just forget about it. It's almost impossible. They don't have laws against it. They just make it impossible. They come over here, they sell their cars, their VCRs, they knock the hell out of our companies. And hey, I have tremendous respect for the Japanese people. I mean, you can respect somebody that's beating the hell out of you, but they are beating the hell out of this country. Kuwait, they live like kings. The poorest person in Kuwait, they live like kings. And yet they're not paying. We make it possible for them to sell their oil. Why aren't they paying us 25% of what they're making? It's a joke.
This sounds like political presidential talk to me, and I know people have
Wait,
talked about
Oprah liked him?
Would you ever?
Probably not, but I do get tired of seeing the country ripped off.
Why would you not?
I just don't think I really have the inclination to do it. I love what I'm doing. I really like it.
Also, it doesn't pay as well.
No, it doesn't. But, you know, I just probably wouldn't do it, Oprah. I probably wouldn't, but I do get tired of seeing what's happening with this country. And if it got so bad, I would never want to rule it.
And the man sent off them salaries. He care less for donated it. Yeah. He cares for the country. He's America first. And that's why they hate.
Here's old Schumer back in the day in the 90s.
This was in 1996.
So
Schumer had no.
Let's see what he thinks.
with the idea, just like Nancy had no problem with raising tariffs because, as she said, the U.S.
And I'm skipping through this because I don't want to steal Rick's content and his thoughts and his beliefs. If you want to hear his views, go to his channel. It's a great channel. It's some of the material I use to get inspiration for my videos. He's a great guy, good conservative kid. Respect him a lot. I just wanted people to see what some of these other politicians believed in the 90s and what Trump believed in the 90s. And if everybody just worried about their lives, their families, their jobs, creating their content, their happiness, mind, body, and soul, health, all of it. Back when I grew up in the 80s, like, we didn't have all these mental illnesses and victim mentality to where you want to just give up. So my point in this video is, here's Schumer.
charged China 2% tariffs, but they charged it 33%. She hated trade deficits with other nations. Have video of both. Here's Chuck in 1996. Let's check it out.
I thank the gentleman, salute him for his work on this, rise in support of the amendment. First of all, Social Security card is used from one end of America to the other as an identification card right now. Who are we kidding? If you want to pass a law and says it shouldn't be, I would ask the chairman and the distinguished minority member of the Social Security committee to pass that law, but let's admit the truth. Everywhere people go, they're asked for a Social Security card. In fact, one way to prove you're a bona fide person who can have a job is to ask for a driver's license and a Social Security card. This is an anti-fraud amendment. Over where we go, people say, well, why can't you stop illegal immigrants or others from coming here? And the
does that sound familiar, guys? What did Chuck Schumer think back in the 90s?
Get jobs, get benefits against the law because of fraud. And here, the gentleman from Florida has put together the most effective anti-fraud measure we can find without it changing the actions of the government one bit. And we find all this opposition. Ladies and gentlemen of this chamber, what I worry about is that this bill, which started out with good intentions, whether you agree with it or disagree with it, is going to end up being the same kind of thing that the public gets angry with us on. We say we're doing something, and we do nothing. Because every time someone makes a rational and small proposal to get something done, people say, well, what about this hypothetical, that hypothetical, etc. I urge support of this amendment. If you believe you want to stop fraud in immigration,
and you can hear it in his voice. You can literally hear the change of tone, the personality, the person he is. They said everything they needed to say. If this does not make you mad and open the veil of who you're supporting, I mean, when it comes to Americans burning down American companies and protesting American companies and supporting other countries over our own people, and that's going to lead us into the other video that I'm going to show you. I'm not going to show you the whole video because I'm going to leave that for you to go see. But these next two videos that I'm going to show you are in order the next two videos you need to watch. So start with this one. Don't even listen to me. Skip through my bullshit. But go ahead and when I pull up this next video, take note of who made it. It's what the F, WTF is the left even doing? Okay, and it's by What If the Left This. 707 subscribers, 707k subscribers. Now the video is too long for me to put on here. I just wanted to get this message out because it's very, very important. Take it serious, don't take it serious. The people that do will benefit from this, I promise you. So if you take the time to go and watch this video and the next video that I'm going to show you, it'll change your life. It'll change your life if you apply it. If you're in this position to apply it, say you have the support that you need, the pieces, the chess pieces in place in your life to get to that next level where you want to go. your dream, your drive, whatever skill you may have, whatever that is, then you need to apply the information in this. But you don't need to follow these people's paths. Just take the advice. Don't take my advice specifically, their advice specifically. Ultimately, everybody's out for themselves, and that's human nature. So, instinct to survive. So, with that said, apply these techniques with your own personality, for your own environment, and what pieces you have in place. Like, some people may not have support by their family members or their friends or even the public. Everybody's so quick to just be like, oh well, and the best advice you can get besides following these is just separate yourself and do what you need to do. So here is what the F is the left even doing. It is the most complete and reasonable analysis of what's going on with the left. And if you are from the left and you're in the generation to where you're undecided, you're this or that, and you're real political, just put yourself and your life first before all that, and watch this video in whole, because this would happen. I mean, the left, it would be bad for a civil war. It'd be real bad. It wouldn't be good for anybody. The military would definitely be on the conservative side. It's just fact. I mean, when it comes to
currently in a historic moment,
the radical beliefs that they believe,
but history is actively being carved out now. I decided to stop everything and write this video since I realized people needed an on-the-ground assessment of what's going on, since we currently exist in a moment of chaos.
I will be right back out of screen. I'm going to go grab a drink real quick while this is playing. So please pay attention to this. This is one of the smartest analysis. I mean, if you're still here, you're going to benefit.
And no one really knows what's happening, and those who know a little tend to be propagandists. Since the Trump victory in the last election, there's been this great question. What is the left going to do about this? The great irony is that the left itself doesn't seem to have an answer to that question. This is very important, since even though they are in mental disorder, the left is still the overwhelming ruling class of the Western world. The left runs the imperial bureaucracy, the United Nations, the European Union, the Catholic Church, major corporations, tech, the media, the educational system, academia, Hollywood, and any other institution you could throw a dart at. Without the left, there's basically nothing left in the Western world, since the right is incapable of creating its own institutions as of now. This is a video to look at what's going on with the left right now. This video is my best attempt to do it, since I do not have the ability to look into the minds of the left's leadership to see where they're at. I am going to be looking at the media, messaging, and implicit assumptions behind the left today to figure out their next move. No matter what they do, they will be determining history from now on. I spent a lot of time online studying for this video, watching videos and articles, and if you're anything like me, you also spend a lot of time online. One thing that's been super helpful for me, and I know will help you as well, is Surfshark, the sponsor of today's video. Surfshark is a VPN with 3,200 plus servers in 100 countries, allowing you to really explore what's going on around the world, whether you're home. Head to surfshark.com. For is my prediction that modern America is on the verge of a political crisis comparable to the French Revolution or the American Civil War. That America is about to experience a horrifying internal war between the right and the left, which will completely remake the current social order, leaving blood on the...
I apologize for my internet connection.
remake the current social order, leaving blood on the streets. If you're new to this show, that may sound insane. However, watch my half a dozen videos on the topic if you'd like to hear more. Especially so, my 1,000 deaths bet has gone pretty viral. Last April, I made a bet with my friend Andrew Heaton that America would experience 1,000 politically motivated deaths within the next year. I then said it on Timcast a few months ago, which broadcasted it out. People are taking this way more seriously than I did. I'm actually not keeping a counter, and the number 1,000 is relatively arbitrary. I find people get obsessive over games where you have a pre-established rule structure. The thing is that if America has 1,000 politically motivated deaths, we really have 50,000 or 5 million or 30 million. The way wars work is that when it rains, it pours. Overnight, you go from peace to complete social breakdown. This is what happened in the World Wars, the American Civil War, the Ukraine War, or even COVID. If we hit 1,000, you'll definitely know. Here we are nearly halfway through February, and it hasn't happened yet. There's not much really else to say. I was very open for my entire career that my job is betting against God, and I'm very transparent about my fallibility. If it doesn't happen, it just didn't happen. There's not much else to say. I'm not going to fill your mind with useless chatter. There's no need to be children about this. This stuff operates under chance, and the impossible part of predicting the future is the actual timing. It's fairly plausible to get an underlying trend down, but to actually predict when it happens is vastly more difficult. For example, I still think a major war is completely unavoidable. I think it's impossible to get out of the next 4 years without blood on the streets, however and whenever it happens. If it doesn't happen by this April, then I'm going to say within the next 4 years. If it doesn't happen by then, I'll just be objectively wrong. There's nothing else I can say. I see lots of people on my side of the aisle, and I will be open about my biases since they're pretty obvious, and if you don't agree, feel free to take my slant out, where lots of people on the right think that Trump could stop a civil war.
I'm back. Sorry about that.
We've already seen Trump have 4 years in office. I do think Trump is the best president in living memory, which may sound dramatic, but here's a text wall to explain why. However, a competent business mogul can't stop this avalanche. The issues plaguing modern America stem back decades. The reason I think we'll have a war is that the average American exists in a state of poverty today. Due to complex demographic factors that mostly started around 1971, the average American has gotten significantly poorer, the country has incredibly high inequality, inflation has skyrocketed, and there are huge classes of elite aspirant, politically motivated young people who want to fight. These are the factors historians have consistently found cause revolutions or civil wars. Said in another way, there's no historic society that looks like us that doesn't have a revolution. There's about 20 different variables you could study blasting off that say we're about to have a revolution. If you're new to this channel, I purposely kept this segment short in order to not bore the people who have heard this spiel 100 times already. So how does this factor in with the left? Reality is made by a million little choices stemming from the minds of the players. I know the right pretty well, but the left is the other player in the game. Thus, in order to figure out what will happen here, we need to look into the minds of the left to see what their motivations are for their next potential actions. This ultimate question will determine the fate of our civilization. Part 2. Mind migrations. You know, there used to be a time when America was a single country. You could drive from Boston to Los Angeles to see a coherent society where people had similar values, blood, philosophic views, national identity, understanding of their shared history, and income range. That's obviously not the case now. Ironically, globalization and immigration.
And we are talking like not the good old days back when, there was, these racial aspects. We're past that. We have to evolve past that. If we don't, and we don't just start worrying about our families and our communities, regardless of who's in it, and if they're America first, that's all should matter, then this is going to come true. So pay attention.
Have split different regions of America more apart, while the intention was to do the opposite. Do you guys remember 2010? I think everyone who's watching this should be old enough to do so. For the 10-year-old watching this, I want to say I am very proud of the mental horsepower you have to be able to understand this at this age, and if society is still functioning when you're older, you could probably become quite wealthy off being so precocious. However, 2010 was an interesting psychological state at complete odds with the rest of the human condition. 2010 was the last point where you could see that unified 20th century myth of America. I'll watch movies from 2010, and it feels almost as if it was a different reality that somehow I lived in. The last time you could see an America that looked reminiscent of The Simpsons or Home Alone. This was a time when Hollywood and Wall Street were seen as Americana. The reason I'm pointing this out is that our society's collective psychological starting point is this time period. The great irony is that this old 20th century America was a lie and completely removed from the rest of the human condition. This was the era of the blue pill, a society where it was an era which thought that history was over, believed in equality, feminism, progress, secularism, didn't believe in the spiritual, pretended to be Christian but didn't really believe in God, was so wealthy, naive, and many other traits. This was all an illusion spun by the enormous wealth of the post-World War II era. It's so remarkable how quickly we've forgotten the entire rest of the human condition. All of human history outside this warm bubble is very different. Hierarchical, religious, coercive, violent, magical, mythic, dramatic, heroic, amongst other things. The problem is that the illusion of 2010, as time passed, became impossible to maintain for a larger and larger percent of the population. The main story of our times is how does one choose to leave the myth of the 2010 era? A major reason I believe we have to have a civil war is that America has become a country where we have different large demographics of the population who basically believe in different realities of the world that have been diverging more and more over the last few years, and these understandings of reality are completely unreconcilable. I am going to split the population into different pills based off red pill terminology, since the only way you can understand the left is to see their own internal emotional journey. A major issue as well is that the society is completely incapable of coming to terms with the fact that the blue...
Now, I don't necessarily agree with everything this person says. You know, see, this is the benefit of being not even necessarily conservative or left or right or political in any aspect. This is just using common sense, okay? Look at the difference between the two sides. Go to a conservative event and go to a left event and go there unbiased. Just try to be as unbiased as possible. Look at the people around. Look at which side looks healthier, like more adapted to be a healthy, functioning part of society. And look at the people that are promoting men beating up women in sport, for the masses, or being able to use a restroom with women. What if women don't want them in the restroom just because they put on a wig? What if I was to put on a wig and enter a women's tournament? Now, I'm just an average male, but some of the beliefs are so out of frame and they're so out of reality. These little people don't realize the outcome of their actions. If you keep throwing rocks at a hornet's nest and missing, when you finally hit it, the hornets are going to get you. You're not going to be able to run away. I thought I could when I was younger. You can't outrun hornets, I'm telling you. They just can't. I got lit up. But let's get back to this, and then I'll show you the other video. You're going to have to watch that yourself. I suggest you do. If you want to get anywhere in life, watch the next video yourself in private. Focus, and it'll help you.
Blue pill era was a lie. Thus, different factions have different answers, most of which are frankly incredibly stupid and silly, since the wise and educated older folks who should have brought more wisdom are themselves bought into maintaining the old lie. An important point that I want to say before I get started is that although we inhabit the same physical space as the left, we are not in the same world, if you understand what I'm saying. The word world carries connotations of your entire concept for how reality works, science, between metaphysics, between philosophy, between your process of just how the environment and human life is, which is why I'll frequently say stuff like the Islamic world or the Western world and that sort of thing. This is a German concept originally. This is a point that I need to emphasize. If you're a rightist, you've gone through an enormous intellectual journey since 2016. I look at who I was in 2016, and I was 15 years old, and I'm in complete shock at how much I've changed as a person, as have my views. The left have been on their own journey, one which rightists don't see. The result of this journey appears as madness to rightists, which it objectively is, don't get me wrong, but it completely makes sense inside the frame the left is holding on to. Let me start with my group, and I would assume yours, the red pill. It frequently feels as if the last 4 years has been God shoving me red pills, saying, hey kid, take another shot and don't throw up this time. I've been red pilled on so many things in such a short time period that I find my old worldview completely incomprehensible and silly. The conclusion I eventually came to is that the pre-industrial world was right on almost everything. That really shouldn't be surprising, given every society ever in history before us largely believed a lot of the very same obvious things, which I show in this text wall here. I don't want to get too far into the right because that's not the point of this video, but suffice it to say, the right is currently in the formation of new mental and philosophic breakthroughs. Of all the fields I've been in modern America, and I've seen a lot of different industries, the new right is one of the most creative and dynamic. You do have the Fox News watching boomer cons who still believe the exact same things as Reagan, but they're aging out. They don't even really hold power due to the Trump coup. The right deserves its own video, but the short answer is that everyone on the new right today have all collectively agreed that the 2010 blue pill era was a lie, and they're looking to further in the past to find a new answer. They're on the right, haha, pun intended, path. There are a few other intellectual tracks which I talk about here in this text wall. In the original edit for this video, I had a 10-minute segment strategically analyzing each of these pills for their strengths and weaknesses. I realize we didn't really need that here, but let me know if you want a video with me explaining these different pills in the future. The right made an active decision to break away from the old worldview, while the left needed to double down. I'm so disappointed that all the anarchist, rebel, punk tendencies inside the left were so fake. They've become complete bootlickers for the regime, and it's depressing to see even communists who are supposedly there to support the working classes betray them for wokeness. The thing is that the way the left differs from the 2010 order is by distilling said order into even greater fanaticism. What that means is that the philosophic conclusions of the blue pill era in their worldview have to be pushed even further without question. Things like equality, secularism, standardization, which are innately false, need to be pushed to their ultimate culmination. Ironically enough, there's two kinds of blue pilled person. You have the boomer blue pill and the zoomer blue pill. And the boomer blue pill is taking the post-World War II silliness at its original face value and then not changing and ignoring how the world has altered massively since 1970, while the zoomer blue pill is just complete deranged insanity, pushing these originally incorrect assumptions to, again, complete insanity. The 2010 order is already dead since it was always built off lies. The left deals with this by making the lies even more obnoxious. I hope you can see how in the process of doing so, they make it impossible to adjust strategically as they default into being a cult. Ironically, their moral code literally denies the importance of evidence, which is so brutal, it's not even something a conservative could make up about the left as a parody. So, what happened with the left? To start, the left gained control over the West's institutions around the time period of the World Wars. You see this in how the Western elites did a tremendous amount to cover up the communist atrocities that occurred under Mao or Stalin. However, the left was absolutely brilliant at psyoping the public, creating the false mirage of consent, fairness, science, and rationality. Over the course of a century, the state and bureaucracy grew more powerful, the culture grew more leftwards, women gained more authority, while America got less white. The left is a kind of mythical vampiric succubi which seduces its prey by saying whatever sweet words words to get them to go back to sleep so that they can suck our blood again. It's hard to understand why the left so irrationally hates Trump until you realize this fact. The left created this false mirage of reality in which they distorted human nature, physics, history, anthropology, religion, and any other discipline to reflect back their absurdities onto the rest of the world. This meant that the things that the rest of history would see as complete madness would come across as common sense to a modern person trying to understand the world. The left created a psychological web where once you accept one of their premises, they win no matter what you do. I cover this more so in my video called Shatter the Glass. If a white person moves out of a minority area, it's white flight, and inside one is gentrification. If a man is too aggressive with a woman, it's rapey, and if he's too passive, it's not attractive and it's an ick. The left was able to make our entire world reflect their lies, which made it almost impossible to break out of their web of illusions. The way I did it was from reading history, one of the most difficult fields to purely falsify, and this is why there are so many historians who become conservative pundits. The left was able to even get the right to reflect their own fantasies. The right was able to play along with the left's game of bureaucracy, safetyism, femininity, minority appeals, the college system, corporate America, amongst other things. The reason the left hates Trump so much is that he is a single man who's defied their entire order. Inside Trump is a story of how the left is completely wrong and evil. Read this text wall if you're interested, but Trump is a man who was successful enough that he no longer needed the system. He then showed how the managerial class had been destroying America by appealing to normal Americans who had been grounded under the heel of a machine, whether through deindustrialization, immigration, DEI, the breakdown of the family, the school system, and so many other things. To continue explaining the reason that the left hates Trump is that for them to actually understand why so many Americans voted for him, they would have to completely destroy their own worldview. They have to motivate their followers into hating Trump, since in their false worldview, if they can get rid of Trump, they've removed the one thing that can snap their mirage. Keep in mind that psychological studies finding that rightists are capable of mentally understanding leftists, but not vice versa. In fact, rightists have mental models of the left that are 3 times as accurate at predicting their actions and ideas than vice versa. This is for complex neurological reasons I explain in this text wall. Another point I'll also throw in is that if you look at Europe or Canada or other countries, you can see that Trump was an incredibly historically significant figure because all of their conservative parties have been psyoped and taken in by the managerial uniparty, which is why lots of conservative parties in Britain or Canada or Australia or France or Germany are to the left of the American Democrat Party. The number one demographic the left aims at psyoping at this point are themselves. An ironic term.
And think about all these countries complaining. Alright, if you're on the left, I don't care if you're on the left or right and you're against the tariffs. What's wrong with charging them a percentage of what they charged us for years? I mean, it's benefited them so much that they have universal free health care. They have benefits that our working class just hasn't had in decades. What's wrong with us recouping some of that money? We might have some growing pains and have to suffer for a month or two, but we've been suffering for decades now. Can't we suffer for another month? It's almost like the grind to get where you need to go. You have to grind to get there, depending on what point of life you want to do it, in your 20s, 30s, 40s, if you want to focus on love in your 20s, and that's where that other video comes into play. If you're still here and you're still watching this, I suggest you finish this video out, and I suggest you watch the next video that I'm going to suggest. It will change your life. It will change your perspective if you take it serious, and it will benefit you. Once you unleash yourself from the chains of everything that's going on here, ask yourself, what's really affecting you in your community? I live in a rural neighborhood. Not much of what goes on in these bigger cities affects me other than price hikes. So, I obviously want Trump to win with the tariffs. And how do you win? You support the policies, you give it a chance, and you try something that obviously what was done before isn't working, and what he did before did work. So let him, the elected official we elected, do what we need him to do. Stop stalling and worry about your own families. The left is some of the most victim-blaming, unhappy people I've ever seen. And that's ultimately why they become violent. And they become violent because they hide in these cities where they're safe. They would never come around here doing this. What you see on the screen there, you would never see that around here. They wouldn't get away with it. That's why they stay away from here. And I'm not talking about all leftists. I mean, there's a lot of level-headed, common sense leftists. But these, the ones that hate America so much, they would never come around here doing that. It's only in the cities, and then that's what you see on the media. Worry about what affects you. I'm living the American dream. I'm a homeowner. I have property, which if you subscribe to my channel, I'll show you more of. We'll take four-wheeler rides. We'll take hunting trips. We'll talk about news. We'll talk about sports, VR, all of it. And you won't have to worry about that fake bullshit AI program. And AI is not sentient, Jesse on Fire. I'm sorry. I like your channel, but shout out, Jesse. AI is not sentient. It's not AGI yet. It doesn't have the ability to do something on its own unless we tell it to. And that's a while away, no matter what the rhetoric shows you. I'm going to let you get back to this because there's an important thing that I need you to hear, and then I'm going to show you the other video. And then if you want to deep dive into this, I could do a live stream on all of these videos. We could do question and answer at the same time. I can answer questions. Like I said, who am I? Should you listen to me? No, listen to yourself. But take what these videos tell you and apply it, and it will help you. Or you can continue bitching. You can continue, wondering, what if I would have done this? And next thing you know, you're 50, 60 years old. You can do that. Or you can take steps right now. Right this minute. Right now. By finishing this video out, then going to these other videos and watching them, and then stepping away from the TV for a minute. Learn a skill. Find something you're passionate about. Or do like I'm doing. Speak up so people see this. Do something. If we're all doing that, there'd be less time for these protests. There'd be less time for these people to burn America down. And they'll eventually die out. But why I want to continue this video here before we leave off is the reality of what would happen in a civil war. And it's going to get a lot of people hurt that have been brainwashed, and honestly, they're I wouldn't say innocent because they're actively doing this against their own country, but it's going to get a lot of people hurt that I don't think know the realities of the situation. So let's finish this out. I'll get to that point, and then it's going to be on you to watch the rest of this video and then watch the next one. If you don't, hey, you didn't gain nothing, you didn't lose nothing.
Term invented by the left is a thought-terminating point. The purpose of this is to give an easy answer to make someone shut up and make them stop asking questions. This is a further incredible example of the point I keep on saying, that you can just look at the left's projections to figure out what they're doing. A great example of this is in one of my favorite movies ever, American Beauty, where a teenager works a crappy job to cover the expensive stuff he buys off actually being a drug dealer. For his dad, although the money he makes from catering is nowhere near enough for his son's obvious expenses, it does provide plausible deniability for his dad's denial. This is literally everything the left says now. It's all some thought-terminating point for their own followers to not have to realize that their entire vision of reality is wrong. It's not for you, it's for them. When it seems unbelievably cringe and completely unbelievable, it's because they don't really care about you believing it at this point anymore. It's funny, when people watch these videos, they tend to think I'm some autistic, hyper-rational person, but the reality is I'm actually a very emotional person, with emotions being the most important part of my inner monologue. I almost perfectly fit the sensitive young man meme, which is a joke they have in rightist circles that the next generation of young male leadership are sensitive young men that do stuff like stare at a well, thinking about the innate nature of life and death as symbolized in the water of the well. I've done that. Thus, when I study a group or an environment, the predominant thing I look at is the emotional state of everyone involved. I'm very intimate with the modern American left. Since I have loads of American relatives, I've lived for years in very left-wing cities, worked with leftists, and spent nearly a decade in leftist schooling. I was here for this process, so I know exactly how it played out. A great thing the left never realizes is that the red bubble is significantly weaker than the blue bubble in that almost no conservatives in America have never seen a leftist argument, but plenty of leftists have never seen a conservative argument. The left was very smug and complacent before Trump. It's crazy how many leftists today unironically believe that Obama is the best president in American history. Well, in reality, he was pretty terrible across the board. Obama gave
and
the left
exposed to have falsified his birth certificate.
To complete social
I got a video on that.
And that the world was guided towards their vision of progress. After Trump seized power, they had an emotional deluge. I talk about this more in the text wall in front of you, but the left went through something that looks like the 7 stages of grief. The psychological fallout due to Trump winning was enormous. If you want a sliver, just watch the SNL video that came out about it. Funnily enough, I did watch John Oliver and SNL then. This was seen as basically a nuclear bomb on their myth of progress. The left went completely hysterical over pretty menial stuff Trump did or said. In retrospect, how the left treated Trump was completely inexcusable. It's kind of funny that now that I've lived in other countries around the world, the stuff Mexican or African or Southeast Asian politicians casually say is so much more tame than Trump, and no one cares in those countries. This was the period the left started to diverge from reality. I remember seeing this in real time as a teenager, as I saw the left had made the conscious decision that reality didn't really exist, that facts didn't matter, and that the world itself was determined by the emotional experiences of the oppressed, and that power determines truth. Starting then, even as a 15-year-old, I knew that the left would go completely crazy. This, combined with the left's insane purity spiraling, means that the left started from there, couldn't help to go completely and crazy. They literally removed every single mechanism they could have used to recenter themselves from their own madness, since they got rid of all the dissenters while also removing any logical or philosophic reset mechanisms. I loved watching the left squirm over Kamala Harris, since I knew a decade ago that they would culminate in this. Their purity spiraling over race and sex was something they had no mechanism to stop, and thus it would eat them inside until they had to appoint a black woman as president. It's a wonder they didn't have to make her gay as well, or trans, or disabled. One who could barely speak publicly, who was universally disliked by both her staff and the public, and who ultimately lost them probably the most important election of the century. What we're ultimately watching now is a movement which followed its original logic, weeding out all the dissenters and now is short-circuiting. There's a historic event which reminds me a lot of the current left. In the early 1500s, during the Protestant Reformation, Germany was plagued by religious wars between Catholics, Protestants, and then again between different varieties of Protestant. Messianic Protestants took over the city of Munster in northwest Germany. As they became walled in by Catholic besiegers, during the siege they spiraled into complete madness, in which they started practicing polygamy, sexual communism, material communism, and mass killings, with internal civil wars. The modern left is an enormous cult, which is doing the exact same thing, which isn't really surprising, given wokeness is very clearly a descendant of Protestantism. COVID was another example of this incredible hysteria. The left used so much emotion over Trump won and COVID that they're completely burnt out. COVID was relatively tame as an illness, which we shut down the economy, locked people down, and spent trillions of dollars to deal with. I know we all have stories from our personal life about how hysterical the left got over COVID. The other thing is that with COVID, and especially so the summer of love, the left was able to gain complete institutional authority. This is important to realize since it completely changed the calculus and perception of the left. Before 2020, the left could convincingly lie that they were the downtrodden, supporting the common man. After that, in which every major institution was beyond woke, and wokeness was very clearly about complete domination of white men, with their complete removal from all public life, it was clear that wokeness was a very powerful, suicidal, and insidious force that would kill the West unless stopped. Where does this leave the internal monologue dialogue of the average leftist. Keep in mind that if you're a leftist at this point, you've been through so many filters that you're so deep into the cult. It was a decade ago when the free-thinking leftists like Joe Rogan, Russell Brand, Shoe on Head, Dave Rubin, Sad Gad, and all the others migrated into the rightist coalition. Keep in mind, the average leftist has probably never heard an honest conservative perspective in their entire lives. The thing with woke people is that as wokeness has become significantly more nihilistic, suicidal, and evil, it consumes more of their minds. Back in 2015, there were loads of leftists who were functioning members of society. They wrote books, had children, served in the military, worked jobs, and all that kind of stuff. It used to be leftists were seen as good at producing culture.
Now, this may seem like I'm trying to make it like ragging on all the leftists or any Democrat. Like I said, there's probably tons of them with common sense. But this is legitimately and proven, I mean, in my opinion, it's been proven beyond a doubt to be progressing to this state. There's just certain people that don't hear certain things. Okay, here's an example. I ultimately have decisions in my life I made that were incorrect. A lot of them. As a human being, I make mistakes. You make mistakes. There's not a person out there, no matter who you're watching, whether it be Charlie Kirk, Donald Trump, me, or any of your other favorite influencers out there that are perfect people or completely happy. Money does not buy happiness. You have to be comfortable in your skin. You have to be comfortable in your surroundings. A lot of factors play into happiness, and it's not just having one particular thing, but rounding out everything. And there's just certain people that don't have the ability to look past the hatred for the fact that Trump's in there and he hurts their feelings. It's all about feelings. And they're in their feelings so much that they're letting their leadership get away with stealing from them, stealing from us, helping other countries so that way those countries pay them and owe them a favor. And if you haven't seen it by now, then it will end up the way that this man explains. So continue watching this video. And I don't listen to many young
making
people
food, and leftist cities were nice places to live. That's not true anymore. An interesting example of this is that in marketing and in sales, woke demographics buy vastly less than their purchasing power should entail. Upon further study, the only reason for this is that woke people were so psychologically disturbed that they just had less hobbies, interests, and bought less stuff than other demographics. Part 3. The mind of a leftist. In the recent years since COVID, we've seen the left hit a real burnout. I think the left burned out and gave up around 2022. Keep in mind, since the left is so psychologically feminine today, they see politics as an avenue to express extreme emotions to allay their own boredom and nihilism. This is why they're so hysterical, but the problem is that given they were so hysterical for so long, they just burned out all their emotional circuits. The left lost the ability to emotionally self-regulate, comprehend their environment, or believe in anything around 2022. A great irony is that the left got burnt out right when they gained complete institutional capture by the most insane group of radical leftists. This is the worst place to be because hopefully after you've attained institutional power, it energizes you so that you can use that power. This is the point you see leftist messaging get deranged and nihilistic for its own sake. It stopped having a real pretense about helping black people, women, or whatever, and just veered into social suicide. I actually rarely see leftist messaging that's per se about black people or women now. Instead, you start seeing the climate become a bigger motivator, given climate change offers a complete carte blanche for social suicide. Ultimately, the way you get rid of carbon emissions is to get rid of industrial civilization.
Okay, so this video is going on almost an hour. If you want me to do an in-depth video on each one of these videos, comment down below. Comment down below. Tell me if you want me to do a live stream of all these videos, and we can do question and answers, and we can figure something out as a community, as people for once. Or if you took any, I just want to hear any comments if people have actually watched these videos and see their opinions on it, and see if we can come to some kind of solution before this does happen. But the other video I needed you people to check out, all you wonderful, beautiful people, and I do suggest that you check this dude out. He's a millionaire. I paid $250,000 for a billionaire's secrets. This is what he told me. Now, it sounds clickbaity. Tai Lopez, 2.47 million subscribers, and I usually don't take this stuff to heart. I usually, here, let me transition over here. There he is. All right, we're back. Tai Lopez. I usually don't take this stuff to heart because there's a lot of get-rich-quick schemes on there. And ultimately, it's whatever you put into your time. And if you're not doing what you're passionate about, your chances of succeeding are bad. But the reason why 99% of people fail is because when times get hard and whenever they don't see results right away, especially in succession, human nature is you just give up and you move on to something else. And we're all guilty of that. We're all guilty of starting something and not completing it, and then wondering, what if we did? Well, same thing here, same thing with anything that you do, even learning how to skateboard, playing guitar, whatever you do. You push through that moment where you almost want to get off the horse. You stay on the horse and you continue grinding and you find solutions to the problems. You troubleshoot and you make it work. You got to. I mean, how else are you going to eat? How else are you going to support yourself, your family, and live the life that you want, that you think is going to make you happy? I mean, like I said, like ultimately, I'm living a lifestyle different than other people. Other people's living different. Everybody, you're in your own environment. You're in your own situation. But watch this. This video will change your life and your aspect on how to make money, how to approach it from somebody that's did it, that I actually kind of believe. And don't listen to me. Just give it a chance. If it sounds like bullshit to you, trust your gut. Maybe it is bullshit. But I believe there's some lessons to be taken away from it. Maybe not everything. I mean, they're not going to tell you everything, especially millionaires. Like he tell. Okay, the most important thing I took away from there is wealth isn't earned; it's bestowed on you. Okay, so you grind, depending on if you want to do it in your 20s and give up on the love aspect for later in life, or if you want to do the love aspect first. Get that established, family life, happy in the mind, and then work on your passion for your career or however you plan on making your income. But whatever approach you take when you finally hit that first 100,000, he said, and it's like a switch. One day you're struggling, you're almost ready to give up, and then the next day you got a million views, and you don't even know how. Once you get that 100,000 or something, you want to initially grind harder, and yes, you do, but there's a fine line between grinding and overdoing it. Now you'll get to a certain point to where people notice you, and it'll be bestowed on you, and those are the opportunities you need to take. The opportunities where people reach out and you know it's a good business transaction for you. It's making them money. It's not hurting nobody, and ultimately it's going to be bestowed on you. It's going to be given to you. You're going to be noticed if you keep doing and you're authentic. If you're authentic and you just do you, don't worry about because you're going to get hate. I get it all the time. I don't give a shit. Am I a great person? That's all perspective. Whoever out there wants to tell you who you are or whatever, if you're upset by that, that's because that you have a problem with yourself. So, ultimately, we're all hypocritical at some point. We're all bullshitters at some point, and whatever. It's when are you going to wake up? So, Watch this video. Tai Lopez. I'm going to hit the like button right now. I'm going to subscribe. And let's transition over here. If you do this thing down here, it helps the algorithm. It helps me out. I'm not going to bullshit you or whatever. I'm not a guru like these people claim to be. But watch these videos. Watch them. Lift the veil first. Find out about your leadership if you're political. Find out the truth. Secondly, realize what's going to happen if it continues. And then third, watch that man's video and then focus on your life. Thanks for watching. Do this down there. Peace.